allow them to write their own legislation, all with impunity. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, David. You're right. Listen, I came across the book many years ago, and I had the pleasure of talking with the author on my radio show, and you might want to check it out. The author's name is David Sirota. It's a little bit outdated in terms of the information. Not a little bit. It is outdated in terms of the facts and the figures. But the relevant themes are still, or the themes in the book are still relevant. The name of the book is Hostile Takeover. Hostile Takeover. And basically his thesis is that America has been taken over by corporations. They run it. And you can't tell me that's not the truth, homie. You know it's true. It's true. And I'm not trying to go Bernie Sanders on you about the corporations in Wall Street, although I think he's justified in doing that. I'm just saying there is some truth in that. There's a lot of truth in that. I mean, just think about the corporations that run things here in Cincinnati. Think about them. Some of the biggest household names that you've grown up with, entities that have been around since you've been on this earth. And what is their influence to the city? I mean, think about it. How can we have so many wealthy individuals, so many Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies in the 513 area, and yet you got parts of Cincinnati that have been completely forgotten until recently? You got parts of Cincinnati that until recently had an infant mortality rate that was higher than the national average. I know some people don't like it when I say that, but it's the truth. How is that possible? What is their influence? I don't get it. You got all these people running around mad because the Bengals lost in the playoffs. Had they won a Super Bowl, would that have changed your life? No, not at all. Zero. Would it have put more money in your pocket? Maybe if you bet one of your coworkers, but not any long money. Would it have increased the employment rate for African Americans or for anybody? No. Would it have increased the home ownership rate in Cincinnati for black folks? No. So why are you so invested in somebody else's success? It's because success, even our mentalities, right, have been colonized by local corporations. The Bengals are a corporation. Call it what it is. I ain't against them. I like some mindless disengagement. I like sports entertainment, but that's all it is. It's nothing more than that. If the Bengals win a Super Bowl, they're not going to send me a ring. I'm not getting a ring. The only way I can get a ring if the Bengals win a Super Bowl is if I put up what is it, probably be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, 8-9 stacks. Yeah, the Brown family's not going to send you a damn thing. But people run around all long faces. The Bengals lost. Man, is that going to include the plight of Tracy Hunter? No. It's ridiculous. I'm telling people need to wake up, Cincinnati, wake up. Welcome back. This is Nathan Ivey Online, and there's so many things to discuss. Here's my question for you, because I got to move fast. There's numerous things to discuss. I want to talk about local issues. Later on in March, you've got the primary coming up. You've got the Democrat candidates. You've got Mr. Ted Strickland. Everybody knows his name. You've got Mr. Sittenfeld. And you've got Miss Prather, Miss Kelly Prather. They are all vying for your vote. If the primary were held today, okay, if today was election day in the primary, whom would you vote for? Would you vote for Strickland? Would you vote for Sittenfeld? Would you vote for Prather? Whom do you believe represents what you want from government the most? It will be very interesting to see how many people show up in the primary. If history is any indicator in terms of the black community, it ain't going to be right. It's going to be sparse. So, history backs up what I'm saying now. The issue with voting in this country, hell, Bobby Seale, legendary member of the Black Panther Party. What did he do? Hell, he ran for mayor of Oakland. Okay? The Black Panther Party, they took their survival program, and part of that was, feeding young kids and giving them breakfast, because what they realized is that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Okay? Still true to this day. Nothing's changed. And I support any efforts that will support hungry children in this city, which, by the way, we have way too many of. I don't hear anybody talking about that whatsoever. Okay, so even you have members of the Black Panther Party, legendary revolutionary Black Panther Party, who understood voting. You flash forward to 2016, people stay out the election, but then they want to criticize the political process. Here's my thoughts on it. We should come out in such numbers that they, whoever they are to you, I'm not sure who they are, the Illuminati, the Republican Party, Alex Triantafulu, whoever you want to call them, who they can't steal the election. Okay? You go back to Tracy Hunter. If more people had come out to support her, right, the numbers wouldn't have been that close, right? So that's my thought on it. Come out in numbers, in record numbers, so that they, whoever they are, can't possibly steal it, even if they want to. But if the election were held today, if the primary were held today, whom would you vote for? Whom would you vote for? Would you vote for Mr. Strickland? He's got name recognition. Looks like he's got the poll numbers, too. Looks like he's the only one, if you believe the poll numbers, who can beat Rob Portman. And I would take any of those Democrats over Rob Portman. But if you vote for, if you are a Democrat, if you've just become a Democrat, you got a big decision to make. You got a big decision to make. Is it going to be Strickland? Is it going to be Sittenfeld? Is it going to be Prather? Now, speaking of Sittenfeld, I've been hearing about this whisper campaign about him and some very ugly allegations. I've heard about this for some time. And I have no evidence to corroborate or substantiate it whatsoever. If someone has evidence and you want to send it to me, that's one thing. But one thing I don't do is dibble and dabble in people's personal matters, especially of a serious nature like this, if there isn't some credible information out there. You got some people out there who are tired and uninspired, and they're trying to make these accusations against Sittenfeld and say, hey, Bill Cosby. The difference is with Bill Cosby is the victims came out. And to this point, I've seen no victims. I've seen nothing whatsoever. So it seems like it's much more of a whisper campaign. This is my humble opinion. I don't have any more information than that. What I would tell you is be very, very careful from whom you get your information. There are people out there that will pose like they are the friend of the black community when in fact they're bought and paid for by other forces and or they're only in it for themselves. Be careful where you get your information. Be careful where you get your information. So until more information comes in, I think we should deal with the information that we have. And right now, what we know is that there are some differences between Sittenfeld and Prather and Strickland that I think that we should explore more. So I want to set the table today. As we move forward, I want to explore those differences, those nuances for you, my audience, so that if you plan on voting, you can do so with the most amount of information. Again, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I may tell you who I'm going to vote for. Okay. If that sways you, it sways you. If it doesn't, then at the very least, you can bounce your opinion off of mine. Period. PD point blank. But I'll say it again. Be very careful where you get your information. There are people out there that will pose like they're a friend of the black community when in fact they are bought and paid for by other entities. They won't tell you that, but I'll tell you that. And we can get as deep as you want to. Brent writes, if you go to any major cities, you will experience the same thing in terms of discrimination, polarization, and segregation. Yes, but I've heard from people that have traveled and lived in different cities and then come to Cincinnati that Cincinnati is a little bit different. And this is what I've heard. I'm born and raised in Cincinnati. While I've traveled, I've never lived outside the 513 area code to give you enough of a strong opinion about it. But that's just what I've heard. You tell me. B writes, what to do when no candidates are wanted? Right in? It's a good question. John writes, I agree. America has been sold. Yeah. Lakeisha writes, Fairfield has set up several bullying programs now due to the recent suicides and suicide attempts. I was not even aware of the severity of the program at our school district until it was on the news. Yeah, it is some real problems out there. Some real, yeah. Pardon me. I'm hip to Fairfield. I believe they had a young Asian girl who her parents are saying she committed suicide because she was being bullied. Now, everybody's different. I just cannot see myself I got bullied. You know what I'm saying? I grew up poor. I told you at some point I used to wear wet jeans to school because wet blue jeans look brand new. And after wearing the same jeans for 3 or 4 months, you put them in the washer, they start to fade. And the kids would be like, man, I bet you can wear those blue jeans tomorrow. And guess what? They were right. They were right. So I understand it. But I never felt like I was going to be bullied to the point where I'm going to give up my gift from God for some other sucker MC. Please, I'll take you out first. So I don't really understand that. I don't really understand it, but everybody's different. Everybody's cut from a different cloth. I get it. But if it's true about what happened with this young Asian girl up in Fairfield, they got some serious explaining to do, some real issues up there. And I remember being in school and seeing kids get bullied, right? I mean, just something terrible, just to the point where they felt like they were just in a little ball. And I know the teachers knew about it, and the teachers would ignore it because of who the other kid was. I'm telling you, adults can get caught up with that stuff. Listen, adults can get caught up with a weak-minded adult. You got a lot of weak-minded adults that are educating our kids. If you doubt it, then how do you explain these female teachers, sometimes in their 30s, sometimes married with kids, and they're having sexual and romantic relationships with underage kids? It's because they're getting caught up with the mentality of the classroom, right? All the girls think he's the alpha guy, and he wants to cheat. And they get caught up with that. And in some cases, who knows how these teachers are brought up. I'm telling you, it's weird out here in these streets. Don't assume you know. Oh, thank you for that, Jerick. I appreciate it. I'm reading your comments here. Brent writes, there is hardly any emphasis is placed on white people collectively when these catastrophes take place. It is by design. Yes, they will never look at what happened at the recent school shooting with a racial context. And I don't think that they should necessarily. They only bring this up because I hate the term black on black crime. I hate that term. I hate it. It is the most misused term in America. To me, the term black on black crime is worse than the N-word. It's worse than saying nigga. Okay, I know you may be with your children. If you're riding your car, I appreciate you. It's worse than saying that. It's much worse because it completely, number one, shows a lack of empathy and respect for the victims of crime because it's just crime. Ain't no black crime. It's crime. Period. There's no white crime per se. And to me, keep it fair. If we're going to profile the black community in terms of their types of crimes, well, then we should profile the black community. We should profile the white community in terms of the types of crimes they commit. Period. That's how I look at it. I got a clip for you. This is David Duke. He sat down. That's right. Yeah, former Klan member David Duke. And he sat down with, I believe his name is Alan Combs. I believe his name is. He used to be the partner of Sean Hannity. And he was just so weak. God, so weak. I couldn't even watch that show. Remember Hannity and Combs before it was Hannity? And, Hannity was the young, alpha, conservative with the strong opinions who won every argument. And Alan Combs was the goofy, geeky-looking liberal who would always get overtalked by Hannity. But he recently sat down with David Duke. You might find this interesting. And he talked about why he supports Donald Trump. Check this out.
Much of the news these days. Dr. Duke, thank you very much for coming on the program tonight.
Yes, I'm glad to be here, and thanks for mentioning the fact that I've been in the House of Representatives, and I have a PhD, and I've written a bunch of books, and I don't mind people mentioning my Klan background, but it's very important people understand that I left the Klan almost 40 years ago.
Well, we'll get into that. Let me ask you a couple of germane things, given the news cycle.
Sure.
You say you're not endorsing Donald Trump, but you say people should vote for him, and you will. How's that not an endorsement?
Well, that's a good question, and I think I make a distinction there. Because when you say you endorse someone, you're basically endorsing the person, and basically people get the impression you're endorsing everything about them. I think that voting sometimes is not a question of endorsing someone, but sometimes you vote strategically. And I voted. I instructed my friends, the people. I didn't go to the media about this, and I didn't make a media issue about this. A very, I think, a very biased media tried to make an issue, and we'll talk about how